Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump is absolutely right. We need to fight fire with fire. There's no sense in being dignified losers when quite literally the fate of the republic is at stake. We need to win, which is why, once again, President Trump, you're going to like this. As of this morning, President Trump is saying this: terminate the filibuster and win. We need to win. There's no sense in playing by imaginary make-believe rules. We need to win. We need to stop these people from regaining power or control in this country ever again. Trump,
You got to. I mean, Democrats don't have much power, policy, but they, even in the minority, they show you how to use their power. They're all about the motor. They don't care about where the car is going to go, but it's going to have a motor. Republicans, they got a nice fancy car. They got all this policy, but they ain't got no motor in it. You know, the hell with that filibuster. Strip it out. You know, put your motor in that thing, and then once you get up the road, you can enact your policy. And that is what's hindering the Republicans right now. They need to get rid of Thune, and they need to get in there and do the shit they need to do, you know. But one thing you got to give credit to the Democrats. They stick together. They're all about power. And Republicans don't realize no matter how much you want to do this or that and be conservative and be like, you can't treat politics like your money. Yeah, conservative is money, Christian values, yada, yada, yada. But politics, it's about power. And you can't do nothing without power.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt Morris. We are live right now on YouTube, as well as on Rumble, as well as on Twitch, of course, at Matt Morris TV. Thank you all very much for being here today. It's very good to be back. I just got back from a 4-day trip with my family down to Disneyland in Southern California to celebrate my daughter's 5-year birthday. But now that I'm back, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you something here. It is all gas, no brakes, going into midterms. I don't even think I'm going to take a day off for another 6 months, okay? I think that's the plan. Now, 7 days a week, every single day, no breaks. We have got a republic to save, and now we are back to help chip in and do our part. Thank you all very much for being here and coming back. I've gotten a lot of very kind messages saying, we miss you, come back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm about to be back so much you're going to get sick of me. And I'll tell you what today, folks, boy, howdy, do we have a lot to talk about today. Now, first off, the Iranian regime has just this morning violated the ceasefire, launching a series.
Hey, look, you're on the Unpopular Opinion Show, and I am the liberal nightmare, and I give these liberals hell. We're going to go ahead and get into this video. I'm doing a piggyback on Matt Morrison. A lot of y'all know him in conservatives channels. Real good guy. Let's get into this video.
Of ballistic missiles and God knows what else at various naval vessels, as well as the United Arab Emirates. And so now President Trump himself is promising to blow them off the face of the earth. And also it seems as if, ladies and gentlemen, as if the Arab Gulf nation.
Look, why don't Trump just go ahead and do what he's going to do already? Like, whatever happened to the you can't negotiate with terrorists? Like, they had an army, they had a navy, they had leaders. Okay, now they're all blown up. All their ships are all blown up. They are down to their few RPG rocket launchers and stuff that terrorists are known for using. So they're resulting to terrorist tactics. Like, go ahead and do what we're going to do already. You know, it's kind of like with the whole filibuster thing. We talk policy, but we don't put the motor in a truck. Put the motor in a truck and let's run this thing.
Are gearing up to officially declare war on the Iranian regime themselves. Seriously, we have a lot to talk about insofar as the Middle East goes. In other news, the second highest ranking Democrat politician in the country, you might have heard of him. His name is Hakeem Jeffries, otherwise known as Temu Obama, has just effectively declared war on the United States Supreme Court, calling them illegitimate. And so now it seems like the congressional Republicans might actually be willing to do something that, frankly, they should have done a long time ago. Something, dare I say, radioactive, as a little bit of a spoiler. And also, the Democrat political establishment itself is currently imploding. Seriously, right this very moment, there is a sort of civil war, if you can call it that, unfolding inside of the DNC, the Democrat National Committee. And the reason why is because they know that they are on the cusp of losing absolutely everything. Really, we're talking about midterms. And they have no idea what to do about it. They're flailing, they're panicking. Folks, we have a lot to talk about today. Do me a favor, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe and follow here and there and everywhere. Follow me everywhere other than in real life, as I like to say. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get right into the show. Like I said, it's going to be a big one. Now, to really kick this off, ladies and gentlemen, we have just gotten some very curious news coming out of the DNC, the Democrat National Committee. You see, right now, we are just 6 months away, about a half a year away from midterm voting day. And guess what? The Democrats have decided that now they want to try to replace their current DNC chairman, a guy named Ken Martin. Seriously, they're trying to replace the one guy that runs the entire Democrat political establishment.
Well, that might be because they tried to have an election last year with no Democrat participants. So they claimed democracy, but it was Kamala versus Kamala. You know, I know Trump didn't have a runoff with nobody, but there was a debate with DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and the rest of them. But when they tallied all the votes up at the end, none of them came close to Trump. So there was, like, they gave way. They conceded. There was no need to try to debate Trump. But you can't tell me who debated against Kamala Harris.
6 months ahead of midterms. And by the way, trust me when I say this, the reason why they're trying to replace this guy, the DNC chair, well, this is perhaps the most interesting component to this entire situation. Let's go ahead and break it down. We got the news this morning. Breaking news. In recent weeks, some DNC members, these are your top-ranking Democrats, well, they've been privately discussing a plan to try to force DNC Chairman Martin out of the job, according to 3 people familiar with these ongoing internal Democrat conversations. The idea, however, was put on hold after top senior-ranking Democrat members failed to identify an alternate candidate willing to step into his role and take over leadership of the DNC. Now, ladies and gentlemen, first off, worth noting here, as we just said, one, the Democrats, all the top-ranking leadership members of the DNC, they desperately want to replace the DNC chairman, Ken Martin. But 2, they literally don't have anyone else. They want to replace him, but they can't. Not exactly a good position to be in, if you ask me. It seems like the Democrats currently have a little bit of a talent problem, to say the least, to put it lightly. But okay, check this out. Ken Martin, you see, has actually only been the chairman of the DNC for 15 months, just a little bit over a year. And already they're looking to replace him, like we said a moment ago, just 6 months ahead of midterm election day. And it sort of begs the question, why? Why are they looking to replace this guy? 6 months ahead of midterms? That seems like maybe not the best idea. Well, let me go ahead and ask all of you in the audience here a question. Is this something that the Democrat Party does out of confidence? Does this endeavor, we got to replace our leader, does this scream confidence 6 months ahead of midterms? Or is this something that the Democrat Party does frantically because they're absolutely panicking? Well, I think we all know what the answer is. But just to be perfectly clear about what's really going on here, the Democrats right now are panicking because they know that they're about to lose midterms. Or at a minimum, midterms are looking pretty dicey, to say the least, for them that is. And so now what they're doing is frantically looking for a new DNC chairman.
I would argue at this point, midterms is looking dicey for both sides. Like, Republicans better have this war wrapped up because gas prices affect the average Joe. And, you know, while I'm with Trump, I'll never go vote for a Democrat, but I can understand taking a shellacking at the polls if these gas prices stay at Biden levels, you know. We definitely need refineries here at home on the East and West Coast because we still have to buy oil, and it's cheaper to buy oil from the Middle East than it is to buy it from the southern states because the politics on the East and West Coast, they won't build refineries or pipelines. So I think we kind of got to clean up our house first, and then we can abandon the East Hemisphere. And in my opinion, just take care of the Western Hemisphere. If we start offering trade sticks, trade with those countries here in the Americas, they won't need to migrate to our country. They'll have a good life there. And I think that's really going forward. Maybe not Trump's administration, but future administrations of the Republican side, I could see us shifting in that direction. But boy, if Democrats get elected, oh boy.
In a desperate last-ditch attempt to salvage this election cycle. And you know what? I'll be totally honest here. The Democrats absolutely should be panicking right now. And actually, not just for one reason, but frankly, for numerous reasons. The most pertinent of which, however, is the Supreme Court's recent gutting of all of the Democrats' beloved and unconstitutional racially gerrymandered voting districts.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got something that I want all of you.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of
Adam,
Phoenix Energy.
we don't care.
I look forward to you.
To take a look at. This is Deputy Attorney Todd Blanche weighing in on this recent Supreme Court decision just this morning.
There is no doubt that the Supreme Court got this decision right. It's the position of the Department of Justice. It's the position of this administration. We argued the case. And so, yes, there is also no doubt that the existing system was not consistent with our Constitution. And that's what the Supreme Court found. And there's going to be a lot of criticism, I expect, even in the coming moments on this show about that decision. But the reality is, what people cannot say is that the provision that was struck down by the Supreme Court is consistent with our Constitution. And that's the Supreme Court's job, is to interpret the Constitution.
Of course, exactly, that's their job. And that is exactly what the Supreme Court recently did when they struck down all of this racial gerrymandering in a bombshell 6-3 decision. And so this really is why the Democrats are so absolutely frantic right now. They're scrambling. They're looking for new leadership. Seems like they might lose the midterms because really, as many of you know, there's nothing that the Democrats hate more than the U.S. Constitution. They love to get up there on this.
So the Democrats, they did this gerrymandering, like in a state like mine in Louisiana, where they made everywhere from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, which is an hour apart, all the way up to Shreveport, which is like another 4 or 5 hours apart. And they made all of that one district. And they wrapped a bow around basically all the minority black people. Now, keep in mind, just because your skin color is the same, what affects someone in New Orleans may not affect the same person in Shreveport. So now, you know, you got people across the street, they're in a whole different voting district because maybe they're white folks or some other folks. So they're getting resources and they actually do something with those resources. Whereas the Democrats, who are supposed to allocate resources to this district, because it's a blue district, you know what they do with their money. They're fraudulent with their money. They use it to campaign more. They don't help the schools. The schools get the most funding, but they're the most failing. You know, they got the highest taxes, worst bridges, worst roads. So, yeah, it would help for those people, even though if you're African American and you vote Democrat, if you're drawn out in a region full of white folks, maybe you won't get your choice. Maybe it will be a Republican. But maybe that money now, because you're considered in their district, they could see that, hey, we're going to allocate this money and not actually money launder this money. You know, you'll start to see things done in your district. So this is a big thing.
Box and say, well, we're the Democrats. We love the democratic will of the people. We love the Constitution. Only so long as they get their way. Only so long as the democratic will of the American people or the U.S. Constitution suits and fits their radically progressive anti-American agenda. The second the Constitution and the democratic will of the American people is at odds with their radically progressive anti-American agenda, well, as far as they're concerned, the Constitution might as well be toilet paper. But now, following this Supreme Court ruling, which took place last week, which has the Democrats panicking, melting down, well, take a look at what President Trump had to say about all of this. President Trump posted yesterday evening, quote, "We cannot allow there to be an election that is conducted unconstitutionally simply for the convenience of state legislatures. If they have to vote twice, so be it. We should demand that state legislatures do what the Supreme Court says must be done. That is more important than administrative convenience. The byproduct is that the Republicans will receive more than 20 House seats in the upcoming midterms." President Donald J. Trump. Now, folks, this is what President Trump is saying. He's saying, listen, the Supreme Court has recently issued their ruling on the constitutionality, on the legitimacy of all of the Democrats' beloved, racist, racially gerrymandered voting districts. Trump says, listen, now that we have that Supreme Court ruling, I expect all of these states all around the country to conduct new sessions, maybe conduct a special session and redraw district lines in accordance with the new mandate from the Supreme Court. But okay, here's a very pertinent question here. Are the states around the country actually going to listen to President Trump? Are they going to redraw all of their unconstitutional, racist voting districts? Well, ladies and
Well, you know, the Democrats, their whole backbone and policy is built on race hustling and identity politics. You know, once that breaks away and people start to think outside of just race and color, they won't get any votes. I mean, once them race grifters go out of business, Democrats make it popular for them to have a business and have a job. And then they create a whole party for it. But once they go out of business, Democrats will actually have to have substance and real policy. It's a tricky one.
gentlemen, I'd like you.
Now, if you're a local business owner, listen up because I'm going to show you how to rank #1 on Google Maps and drive a...
Take a listen to this.
Who the member of Congress is going to be, there cannot be racial discrimination. The fact of the matter is, for decades, the Democrats have been using racial discrimination to draw these crazily drawn lines to try to protect Democrats. And now those crazy jigsaw puzzle lines have been using to protect members of the Democrat caucus in Congress can no longer be used. And here's the practical effect of what's going to happen. Because we are going to eliminate using race to draw these congressional lines, it means that, especially in these southern states, we are going to add maybe a dozen more Republicans to the United States Congress. Texas is going to add 5 Republican seats. Florida's going to add 4 Republican seats. There'll be many more in other southern states. And we will finally make those districts look a whole lot more compact. The other thing about this, Maria, is the rank hypocrisy by the Democrats. Listen, if you look at New England, in all of the New England states, there are millions of Republican voters, and yet there are 0 Republicans who represent New England in the United States Congress. And then look at what Obama said over the past 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, Obama was applauding Virginia for redrawing their maps to eliminate Republicans, and yet he was in shock and very critical when Louisiana is now going to draw its map to elect more Republicans. It's time for the Democrats to stop being such hypocrites and finally have everybody across the country to stop using race as a reason to draw congressional.
They're not being hypocrites. They're using race as a leverage, a tool to get power. See, the one thing Democrats know how to do is play the game and get power. Where Republicans, we're stuck on policy. Well, you got to have good policy, but it's like having a horse with no motor. You need to put a motor in that thing first, then you can get your policy executed. Like with the filibuster. The hell with the filibuster. Knock that shit down, put the motor in that thing, then you can execute your policy. Because we know that's what the Democrats are going to do. Now, they don't have no policy, but you notice they're in a minority here, and they have just as much power as we do in the majority. Because they know how to use every ounce of the power they have. Where Republicans, we got these rhinos, and we act like we can't all sing on a tune together. We got that white man have no rhythm complex. Let's just get it together, all together now,
Lines.
Well, just as sort of a litmus test here, let's just put this to the extreme. If I said, hey, everyone, I think across this country we should have voting districts only for white people. No black people, no brown people, only white people in these voting districts. This obviously, it's like, wait, what? That's insane. Well, this is what the Democrats have been doing on the opposite end of the spectrum for like 60 years now, following the ratification of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. The Supreme Court says no. And so absolutely, which is once again, all of this is why the Democrats are so absolutely livid right now. But you know what? To answer the question I asked all of you just a couple minutes ago, guess what? Many states across the United States have actually already called special sessions, and they have already passed or are in the process of passing new, constitutionally sound, non-racist district boundaries. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you kind of a comprehensive overview here. Here's the truth. As things currently stand right now, as of today, Monday, May 4th, the Republicans are unquestionably, undeniably winning the ongoing redistricting war, if you can call it that, by a lot. Thanks to this recent Supreme Court ruling, which got pushed through last week regarding the Voting Rights Act and racial gerrymandering, the Republicans, guess what, are now set to gain anywhere from 5 all the way up to 11 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives going into midterms before anyone has even voted. Now, I don't want you guys to get overconfident. We all need to vote. You need to vote, but it's nice to have this ace up our sleeve. Things are already going our way, and nobody's even voted yet. And I want you to keep something in mind here. Very important component to all of this. If the Republicans gain 11 seats or 5 seats or anywhere in between, let's call it 11. Let's say the Republicans gain 11 seats. The Democrats similarly lose 11 seats, ultimately creating what? A 22-seat margin. It's much bigger. All of these shifting seats.
Yeah, but I'm curious to know how much does that affect the Senate? I mean, we have a majority here in the House right now, and we can't get nothing passed. And we got a majority Senate. But, it seems like, well, unless you get 60 majority in the Senate, nothing gets done. And then the minority party could put a gun in your head, block funding for DHS and protest votes and all this shenanigans. So unless you want to be able to stop all their protesting and shutting down the government, you got to do a filibuster and, make it where 50 votes plus the VP 51 gets your agenda done. So all this talk about house this, house that, I know it's part of it, but that filibuster thing needs to be solved, like ASAP.
This situation is much more profound than it seems at first glance. You say, oh, 5 seats, who cares? Well, it's not who cares, but it's actually a 10-point gap. You need to multiply that number by 2. And I'll tell you what, thank God the Democrats are panicking. They should be. Their entire plan of drawing up these racist, unconstitutional voting districts across the country has been shut down. They're looking for new leadership. They're like a bunch of headless chickens running around outside. They've got no direction at all. They don't even know what they're doing. Just piece by piece, every single aspect of every single one of their plans, well, it's all getting shut down. Day by day, month by month, in the lower courts, in the appellate courts, in the Supreme Court, Trump's executive orders, congressionally passed legislature, it's getting shut down. And they know very soon they're going to have nothing left. And I'll tell you what, that is a good thing. That is what it looks like to put America first. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a recap of the ongoing implosion, of the complete and total decimation of the Democrat establishment. They're attempting to focus their rage and their ire on somebody. They're like, well, who can we be mad at? Nothing is going our way. We're all mad. We've got to be mad at somebody. Well, I guess we're going to be mad at the head of the DNC. So we're going to try to get rid of him and replace him with somebody else.
Have you considered going through the UCC process and taking back control of your straw man? If you...
They're saying heads will, have you heard that phrase? Heads will roll. They're looking for a head to roll. And so they're focused on the chairman of the DNC. But the problem is, as that report indicated, they don't have anyone to replace him with.
No.
They don't have anyone competent or politically savvy or effective. I don't know. You got to have the connections in Washington, D.C. and across. They don't have anybody. And so it seems like they're forced in this position where their current chairman is like a loser. They don't, not only do we not like him, but even the Democrats don't like him anymore. Got to replace him. Wait a minute. We don't have a replacement. That's a little bit of a problem. And so they might be stuck with this guy who they all hate, who they think is a loser. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe because, like I said, we have an absolutely massive comeback show. Can I permission to be a little bit emotional here? I might even start crying. Okay, bear with me if I start getting misty in the eyes. I kind of missed you guys. I had a fun time. Okay, but I was like, man, I can't wait to go back and get back to work and keep on doing the show. There's always, every day, there's stuff to talk about. I'm a little bit of a workaholic. It's good to take breaks, but I'm a little bit of a workaholic. So I kind of missed you guys. I'm happy to be back. I'm happy all of you guys were waiting for me. You came back. I was sitting there in Disneyland. I was thinking, man, what if on Monday I come back to the show and nobody shows up? What if nobody even shows up? Well, how many people are here? I don't know. Can I take a look? We've got 8,700 on YouTube. Normally I don't even check, but I'm a little bit self-conscious. We've got 1,200 on Twitch and 3,500 on Rumble. Shout out everybody tuning in today. Thank you all very much. Folks, let's get on with the news. Enough of the sentimental jibber jabber, okay? No more crying. Let's get back to the news because it's a big day. Ladies and gentlemen, the second highest ranking Democrat politician in the country, a guy who goes by the name of House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, otherwise known as Temu Obama, has just effectively declared war on the United States Supreme Court. Seriously, he thinks the U.S. Supreme Court is illegitimate, as he said, and that the Democrats should just stop abiding by the Supreme Court's rulings altogether. I know this sounds crazy, but if you don't believe me,
Now, that's to the crux of what the Democrats truly want. All mayhem, everybody break all the laws, and do it in such droves and such numbers that it can't be enforced. When you have mobs everywhere, outnumber the police, it can't be enforced. That's what they want. And then they want Trump to come in and with the damn billy clubs and get people in line who are probably burning, protesting, everything, and then have the media say, oh my God, look what they're doing to American citizens, right? That's what they want. And they only want that just so they can get back in power. And then, oh, everybody go home now. It's all good, nothing to see here. Now you got the nice government, the good government. You know, y'all can stop rioting now. The Democrats really would plan for riots across the country to get the Republicans out of power so that they could get in power. And then be like, okay, nothing to see here. Y'all can stop rioting now. Put away your torches and rocks and sticks and guns. Yeah, that's them. That's their whole, you know, disruption, chaos, being loud and wrong.
I want you to take a listen to what Mr. Hakeem Jeffries, Temu Obama, had to say for himself just the other day, right from the horse's mouth.
In the new Congress, we're going to have to do something about this Supreme Court. And let me be very clear. Everything is on the table. Everything to deal with this corrupt MAGA majority that is issuing political opinions that are designed to bolster the prospects of the Republican Party. And we will not allow them to succeed.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Like I said, Hakeem Jeffries is the second highest ranking elected Democrat in the country. And he is now saying that the U.S. Supreme Court is illegitimate. All because, why? What is he so mad about? Well, it's because the Supreme Court recently had the audacity to overturn all of the Democrats' beloved racially gerrymandered voting districts. And also, worth noting here, ladies and gentlemen, when Hakeem Jeffries says that when the Democrats regain control of Congress, that everything is on the table, as he just said, what exactly is he talking about? Well, we actually know for a fact exactly what they're talking about. We know for a fact what their plans are, because they themselves, literally time and time again, they have told us. In fact, probably the best recap of that, well, recently, just about a week and a half ago, top Democrat political consultant and top Democrat campaign strategist, James Carville, stated on a very popular left-wing podcast that when the Democrats regain power, they plan to do the following. 1, grant statehood to Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico so that the Democrats can unlock 4 extra seats in the Senate. They're going to try to pack the Senate. Then they're going to try to pack the U.S. Supreme Court from 9 justices all the way up to 13 justices, adding another 4 radically progressive left-wing Supreme Court justices to the court. They're going to pack the Supreme Court after they pack the Senate. Then they're openly saying that they are going to reopen the U.S.-Mexico border and grant mass amnesty to every single illegal alien currently inside of the country and any illegal aliens that want to come in the country thereafter. And I say reopen the border because this is what they did during the very...
And that's not a threat. They will do that. They absolutely will do that. They want to make it where your vote will not count. They will have forever power, and we'll have to break away some kind of way to get rid of that stranglehold. But yeah, so where the major armies reside and what states and who controls them resides right now, it absolutely matters, because once they pull some shit like that, it's gonna be wanting to break off from the union, and states ready to clutch their arms and go to war about this. Trump's right. Kill the filibuster. It's time to go ahead, get this party over with. The hell with the shenanigans. Kill the filibuster and get what we need done through. Now, yeah, it does mean one day Democrats will be in office and they'll be able to do what they want. But it's inevitable. They'll be in office eventually. But he who strikes first usually has the advantage. Look, guys, that's all I got for you now. I am the liberal nightmare. and you are on the Unpopular Opinion Show.